You can trace it back. There's apostolic succession. People don't know history. Mormons don't know history.
Okay, hold up. Like he said, obviously we think Christ is fully God, and obviously we think he was fully man.
Yeah.
Like I don't see any reason to reject.
Why does everyone keep trying to say we don't think that? All those in favor, welcome to another episode. I'm going to be blind reacting to a video that Cade just sent me. It's called An Orthodox Christian Perspective on Latter-day Saints. This is Justin Havens. He's the pastor of an Orthodox church here in Utah, actually. And he has some thoughts on us, so let's see what he has to say.
And I should just say before we get going, I think the setup for the video is actually really freaking cool.
It's hard.
Their Orthodox buildings are like really, really cool. And Orthodox art is really, really cool. So
You kind of love Orthodoxy.
oh yeah,
right?
I think it's so cool. So fascinating.
I feel like most people, I don't want to say, I feel like a lot of Americans like don't even know about Orthodoxy because you just get taught about like the Catholic Church in history class and you don't even know about Orthodoxy.
It's a crazy, crazy history. Like just millions of pages have been written on the history of the Orthodox and the Universal Roman Church. So it's really fascinating. And I should also, I just encourage everyone, go check it out. Like go to an Orthodox church. They're really cool. Go read about Orthodoxy. It's really, really fascinating.
So should I just play it from the beginning?
Yeah, start from the beginning.
So given that a lot of their background has an emphasis on morality, there's a lot of good that you can draw from somebody who's coming from a LDS background. What are some of the blind spots that you think that they may have coming from that type of faith?
Well, theologically, it's just insanity. I mean, for us, I don't mean that in an insulting way. I just mean that when you look at the ancient faith and that Christ is truly God and the understanding of the Holy Trinity and the creation of the world. And, we say Christian, there's a lot of differences between Orthodoxy and Catholicism and being a Methodist, whatever it is, but at least you could gather those people and say, Christ is fully God and fully man, and God created everything out of nothing, and these kind of basic Christian tenets.
So we don't think that.
Mormons
Okay, pause. Like he said, obviously we think Christ is fully God, and obviously we think he was fully man.
Yeah.
Like I don't see any reason to reject.
Why does everyone keep trying to say we don't think that?
It's lost on me, dude. I have no idea. I have no idea why people want us to believe that so bad. Like they should want us. Like if we say, oh yeah, we think Christ is God and we think he was fully God and fully man, then like
they should be like, oh, sick.
Oh, thank goodness. Like that's a big doctrine.
It's like, no, you don't. Stop deceiving
You're
me,
not allowed.
Mormon. Wolf in sheep's clothing. Get away from me, Mormon. It's like, bro, like what? What were you gonna say about creation from nothing?
Yeah, no, we don't believe in creation from nothing. So he's right on that. He's right. But I mean, if you really think that is a core Christian doctrine, it's in Genesis, according to these guys. Like just it's like one verse max.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem that foundational to me.
You get to the last day, Christ is like, hey dude, thanks for worshiping me your whole life. It's like, I'm just seeing here, when you filled out that post-death theological survey, you didn't say that you think I created everything from nothing, so you're going to hell forever.
Out. Get out. No, I don't know. And I think here's the motivation. I think have you heard of the Kalam cosmological argument?
I have, just because I'm friends with you. What is it?
So Kalam is this argument that says like, if something exists, it has a cause. The universe began to exist. The universe has a cause. That's like a rough way to put it. It's probably not perfect. There's different formulations of it. But I think a lot of the motivation for saying that creation from nothing is like a super foundational Christian doctrine is because that is a very, in their eyes, useful tool to convince people that God exists. Like it's a good argument that proves God's existence in their view. So obviously, they're going to kind of put a little more weight on it because they think it has a lot of missionary capacity.
Just because it makes him the cause of the universe?
So that's a little different, being the cause of the universe and being the reason the universe began to exist. Like, there's the argument from motion from Thomas Aquinas, which is like the first cause, like the unmoved mover argument. It's like any change that happens, any motion or any cause that happens to something else has to have some other cause. And you either have to posit that there's infinite causes going on forever, which is stupid, or you say that God is the first cause and he's an uncaused cause. But that's a little bit different than saying everything that begins to exist has a cause. The universe began to exist. The universe has a cause. So that's my theory.
But we believe that God's the unmoved mover.
I don't.
Oh, you don't. What is it?
Because being unmoved kind of indicates, not kind of, this is a Thomistic attribute, an attribute that Thomas Aquinas says God has.
I was making eye contact with the viewer when you said Thomistic. I'm like, yeah, I don't know what that means either.
So, there's this idea in Catholicism very heavily and a lot in Protestantism as well, that God cannot be acted upon and he can only act. I think we reject that. And if you read the book of Moses, like God looks over the world and he sees that people are treating each other terribly. And he like weeps,
Yeah,
like God cries.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
And like if we pray to God and he answers our prayer, isn't that him being acted upon?
no, because that was set from the beginning. It's one way you could kind of go around that, is everything was determined and God knew the future. And so,
Yeah, but then you lose free will, right?
yeah. And some people are happy to put that,
Okay.
give that up. Or you could say a lot of people have kind of tried to argue that like God isn't moved by something unless he like chooses to be moved by something. But that doesn't really work with me, because there's still some external thing that's seemingly causing you to be moved. So we can accept that God is like the first cause, but I don't think we would say that God is an unmoved mover. Like I think he interacts with the world, and I think the world interacts with him, and I think it's better that way. But people are certainly welcome to disagree with us, and we'd love to hear any disagreements on that.
Okay. But the unmoved mover is not the first cause.
He is, yes.
Okay. So in that sense, we do believe that he is. That's kind of what I meant when I asked. Like that he's the first cause.
That's very compatible with
Okay.
LDS theology, that God is the first cause, like the first thing that set things into motion. That's certainly open to us.
Yeah, it's lit.
But you can keep going on the video. He gets deeper into this.
This way. And they're very offended if they hear that. And I explained to them, I know you call yourselves Christians and you love Christ, who you say to be, but Christ is not God to them. So they're not Christians in the proper sense in the world. And so it's totally unlike us in that way. There's no ultimate connection in that way. So that's a huge difference we have to be honest about. Like I think there's an assumption of vocabulary. Use the word sacrament. For them, it's water and this, and it's a symbol, right? Somewhat similar to a Protestant understanding, way different. The idea of ordination, the idea of priesthood. Every Mormon young man, takes on the Aaronic priesthood, right? Every Mormon is a priesthood. Maybe older becomes a Melchizedek and priesthood and the bishopric and all this. So they, just because of their cultural awareness, it's all they know. It's like growing up in Mexico and everyone's Catholic, right? Everyone kind of knows what Padre is.
I thought he was going to say, it's like growing up in Mexico and everyone's Mexican.
Who this kind of is, and they wouldn't have a context for anything else. That's how it is there. So the new terms, new things are very hard. They say the church. Orthodox Christians, we say the church says this, the church says that. They say that because they have a heavy idea of the church.
Well, does he think that when he says the church, does he mean the Orthodox Church, or does he mean all Christianity?
He'll be probably referring to the Orthodox Church and like the ancient Catholic tradition. So like the
so when Protestants say the church, they just mean everyone except for us. You know what I mean?
That's whack, dude. That actually does quite piss me off, because when they say church, it should mean like the building down the road that like we have like some activities at every once in a while.
That like Pastor Jeff is hanging out at.
No, Pastor Jeff is chill. We rock with Pastor Jeff.
I love Pastor Jeff too. I mean, like
different Pastor Jeff.
Any pastor, yeah. I just chose Jeff as the name. But that's funny. So what he's saying here, when they say that, basically you're saying that like he's wrong about us when he's saying that we don't think Jesus is God the way they do. We do.
Yeah. And they'll probably say like, well, this is where they run into some trouble, is because they'll be like, no, we're saying Jesus is the Father. But like a core Trinitarian idea is that Jesus is not the Father. They're trying to say like, oh, there's one God and Jesus is that God. But that's when you get into some Trinitarian math that doesn't really math for me. And I mean, I'd be happy to talk about that with anyone later, but we think that Jesus is fully divine, and we think that salvation only comes through him, and that he is the Father of our salvation. And we just think that Christ and the Father both have different bodies. They both are embodied and perfectly so. And we think they are not the same. They're different. And it's not just like a split in persons. Like we would say, using their language, they are identical substances, but two different substances. And we're kind of fine to swallow that. That doesn't really bother us.
And it's funny because this idea of Jesus being the Father of our salvation is something that I learned reading the Book of Mormon. I can't remember what verse it is, but I think it's in Mosiah, where it says that Christ is our Father.
Yeah.
And I think that's a beautiful doctrine that's in both the Bible and the Book of Mormon. So it's funny that, like, for me, that's a belief that they would say, hey, I'm happy you came to that belief. And it's like, yeah, I found out about that when I was reading the Book of Mormon.
Yeah.
Like, when I was reading the Bible, I kind of missed it. But when I was reading the Book of Mormon, I mean, obviously I would have said that he's the giver of my salvation, but that title of Father, ascribing to Jesus Christ, that's something I ran into in the Book of Mormon. And it's just fun. It's just funny to me.
But if you got it that way, then
It's wrong.
Sorry, brother. You're cooked. Keep going.
Which, by the way, I should say is a beautiful thing, because when they find orthodoxy, unlike, I think, like radically individualistic evangelicals or Protestants, LDS people make the best Orthodox Christians. Really, the best, because they're humble.
I'll take it.
Like they love to, where can I tithe? Like I naturally tithe. Where can I give to the church? Where can I sacrifice? How can I help? Where can I give? They're naturally obedient to something greater than themselves. It's a natural humility and service. That's different than Protestants, very different. And they're very obedient, and they love and they respect the priesthood, and it's very beautiful, actually. But in terms of blind spots would be, again, just they're very unaware of anything outside of their own religious upbringing. Like they don't even know what a priest really is. They don't know what Holy Communion is. The idea.
Is there there's like a footnote that popped up there, I'm sure, right?
Like study of Latter-day Saints.
Yeah, like there's got to be something.
What's your religious familiarity? Well, it's funny too, and I think there are people who grow up in Utah or maybe Tonga, like very largely Latter-day Saint communities. And maybe for a couple neighborhoods or counties, that could be true, right? I mean, like my dad was raised Catholic, so I feel like I grew up with more understanding of other religions. Mm-hmm. But to say that like the 16, 17 million members around the world in all these different countries that
don't
speak
know
all
what
these
a priest is.
Yeah, and most of them most Mormons are a minority religion. Like there's some that live in the places I mentioned that are in the majority religion, but most members of the church are the minority religion in their community. So it's kind of a strange idea that even though you're the minority, like you're the only member of the church in your high school or your town, you don't know anything about any other religion. It's like,
I really like that he was kind of hyping us up a little bit, saying that we're very devoted. We're not just like shallow religious people. Like we actually have this deep and abiding devotion to our faith.
Yeah, and a respect for authority.
Exactly. Like that's super cool. And I really like that he said that. But I just don't. I think if you surveyed every single member of the church and you said, what is a Catholic priest? I think almost every single one of them would be able to tell you. But I think if you're going to go and like survey every single Orthodox person and say like, what is the Book of Mormon?
Yeah.
I don't think they would be able to tell you one relevant detail about it. Or like, what is a bishop? What's a Mormon bishop? They wouldn't be able to tell you one single thing about it.
Yeah.
So, and that's fine. Like, I don't care. Like,
I don't
that's
expect
okay.
that of them.
But don't like go out and criticize members of the church for not understanding orthodoxy. When like, you don't even like, that's probably not even the case.
When I love this idea that we're like, oh, Mormons are this sheltered cult. So what they do to keep everyone sheltered is they send them to other countries and other cultures for 2 years, and they make them learn the language and traditions of other cultures and people. And then like, that's how they keep them like sheltered. And it's like, what? It's like, we are like, many members of the church know a lot about a lot of different faith traditions because we spend 2 years talking exclusively to people of other faith traditions about their faith.
Yeah. I get it's kind of hard sometimes in these interviews to use precise language. I hope he was just kind of like maybe just like a slip up or something. But yeah, I just don't.
Not a great.
I don't think that's accurate at all. But thank you for the hype.
Yeah, the saints. I mean, they're all saints, right? They're called Latter-day Saints. It's a very funny name in Spanish. I think it's the Church of Jesus Christ of the Last Days, de las últimas días. It sounds a little more ominous when you say it in other languages. Like, this is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
What does it sound like in
Church of the
Kiribati?
So in Kiribati, it is Ana Kresi Jesu Cristo, ibuki aiki isaki ni bongaika kaisira.
How does that translate like exactly?
Means his church, Jesus Christ, for them which are clean in the days which are last.
That's so cool. Come on. That's like,
Oh yeah.
come on.
Well, I mean, most Christians hold the belief that this is the last days.
Yeah.
So it's not that weird.
Since Paul, Christians have been saying these are the last days.
Yeah.
Paul was like, hey, dude, don't get married. Like, Jesus is coming back like right away.
Yeah.
So like, everyone thinks we're in the last days. It's not ominous. It's just, it's fine.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, it's fine, I guess. Like, I don't care that much, but.
And then in Haitian Creole, I haven't said the name of the church in Creole in forever. Like, Jésus-Christ, Poussin, Dernier Juillet. Yeah, same thing. Last days.
Interesting.
What other languages do you know, Bailey?
That's it. That's all I got, guys. But Fijian on the way. I haven't started studying yet. That's the goal. All right.
Saints of the last days, you know? But that, in other words, they're all kind of saints. And for us, we would say that's really lowering the bar. Like, we're called to be saints, right? So that, I think also that idea of asceticism that's present in, no, it's not present in
What's asceticism?
Sorry. But his critique about the saints is like, yeah, that's fair. Like, if you guys think that saints are like very, I mean, they see saints as a very, it's very high up. It's not like not everyone is your saint, like he was saying. And that's fine. Like, you can criticize us for calling people like everyone else saints. That's fine. It's okay. We have different conceptions of saints. And I'm happy to just disagree on that. Like, if you think that's a blind spot, as he says, for us, like, I'm happy to accept that criticism. Like, it's okay. We see the word in different ways.
We're not denying that we have different vocab.
Oh yeah.
Like,
100%.
his arguments is like, we don't even know how other people use the vocab. It's like, yeah, like when someone talks about Saint Peter in a different church, like they think that's just like their neighbor, Peter. Yeah, it's like, no, like we know that people use the word saint differently than we do.
Yeah, it's true. It's funny.
Also, asceticism is severe self-discipline and avoidance of all forms of indulgence, typically for religious reasons.
Huh.
So
I don't know.
I guess like just
Never heard that word.
Religious discipline or something.
Mormonism. They're very moralistic. Like, we're moral too. We should be more. But for us, morality is just the outside. Like, we don't. Dostoevsky says you can't just do good for the sake of doing good. If God doesn't exist, then everything's permitted, right? So they're very moralistic, which can lead to a lot of pride, generally speaking. So, like, being holy. Like, I remember I asked 2 Mormon missionaries that came to my house, what's holiness? You know, taking in the trash cans for your neighbors and do it. I said, no, that's being virtuous and doing. What's holiness?
What's holiness? Taking the trash cans out for your neighbors. So that's just like the only thing we know. I took the trash out. I took the trash out. I'm holy. It's like, what? That's what they said?
It's a bad answer, low-key.
That's
But
a bad answer.
still, I don't get the critique of like, they try really hard to be like really good people.
Yeah.
And like, you're supposed to do that, but like, not like it's not supposed to be on the inside, or it's just not supposed to be just on the outside. Like,
It's like they're the only religion that has like some communities with like a purity culture, or like they're the only religion that like has like prideful people in it. It's like, oh yeah, I'm sure every member of your faith is completely not prideful.
also, don't even get me started on this, like, this Dostoevsky quote that he pulls up, like, without God, all things are permitted. No, like I love moral philosophy and I love ethics. But if you get me talking on this, I will go bananas, because I think almost every single normative ethical theory is available to people who don't believe in God. So
Yeah.
I'll just leave it at that. Maybe we can do another video on
It's just
that.
kind of a straw man of atheism.
Yeah, like an atheist would probably be like, oh no, like maximizing like well-being.
Or minimizing harm.
Yeah, maximizing well-being, minimizing harm. That's like that's
Pretty common.
yeah. Like there you go. That's a moral system.
Murder's not permitted by most people who don't believe in God.
Yeah, exactly. I'll go even further to say like the conception that a lot of Catholics and Protestants have of ethics is just really bad. It's called divine command theory, and that's basically like whatever God says is good, and whatever is good is what God says, and that would be a really fun episode.
Does Orthodoxy
People who are dorks like me, but Orthodox, like I'm not going to say he accepts that view, but like it's very common in Protestantism because of the maximal powers that God has in those traditions. And there's another common argument called the moral argument for God, and it basically says like if there are moral values and duties, then there's God, essentially. Like where would the moral values and duties come from if God didn't exist?
Yeah.
And I just don't think it works. Like I am not a huge
not super
fan of that
appealing
argument.
to people who
But there's two parts to it. One is that if there are moral values and duties, then God exists. And then the other part is if God exists, then there are moral values and duties. And I accept the latter half
Sure.
because I don't think there's a way to reconcile. Like maybe deism, like there's like some kind of God that doesn't have any interest in the world, that could maybe sidestep the argument a little bit. But theist, like a loving God who desires the salvation like of his people, which is pretty much what almost all theists believe. I don't think that is compatible with saying that there are no.
Yeah. And there was someone in General Conference recently who said that a God with no expectations of his children is functionally the same as having no God.
Yeah, that was Elder Holland.
And I feel like there's a lot of merit to that. In an age where it's so tempting to just water down every part of religion and like obedience and tradition and like we don't want to be judgmental of people who don't share our convictions or the standards that we choose to live. But I just think some people are favoring faith traditions that just have really low expectations for their followers.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that aligns with the majesty of God and the promises that he has given us.
And this guy, Justin Havens. Yeah. This guy, like he would obviously agree with that. Like he'd be like, yeah, we need God demands a lot of his people. And so like just like leave us alone, man. Like we're just trying to be good people. You don't need to be like, oh, well, you're doing it because you want to be holy. It's like, yeah, okay, it's fine. We want to be holy and we try to be nice people.
Yeah.
Sue me.
He's like, Elder, what would Christ do if he was here? He's like, take out the trash. He would take out the trash. I know he would.
I'm never taking out the trash again after this video.
I describe the life of St. John Maximovich or something, and they just no context. Or I bring them into the church, and they sense the incense and like just
Maximovich
the feeling in an Orthodox church. I said, do you feel that? I'm not like a frou-frou, like, do you sense that presence? And they go, we never experienced anything like this. So for them, holiness is not really, they're not even aware of that. That could be a blind spot. They're very moral. You know, check the box off. I think it's a big temptation. Check the box off, be moral, make sure you do this. So it can be about externals in many ways. And I'd say one of the other big problems is that it's very emotional. There's a high sentimentality. And
he just barely was like, when people walk into our church, they feel different. And they're like, I've never felt this way before. And then he's like, but also their church is too emotional.
So it's actually interesting. In another video, he talks about his conversion to Orthodoxy. And he's like, yeah, it wasn't just intellectual at first. Like it was like, I walked into the building and like, I knew that God was there. And I like, here's a big issue I take with a lot of these criticisms is I think they have a lot of success by saying like, oh yeah, the Mormons just trust their feelings.
Yeah.
And that's just such a gross reduction of what religious experience really is. And I wish he would see that like what we talk about when we talk about our religious experiences is kind of like what he was saying. Like it's like this, it's just an experience. It's almost ineffable. It's like sometimes words aren't even able to describe it. It's not just like, oh yeah, I'm feeling happy. You're like, oh, I'm feeling peaceful. Like religious experiences are so much more than that. Like something just clicks and you just get it.
Yeah.
And I don't like it. I don't like when people say like, oh yeah, they just trust their hearts or their feelings or whatever.
Well, and it's this weird cannibalism of other Christian denominations like trying to diminish each other's experiences with Christ. And it's like, I'm in Kitty Bess. We've got this Catholic mom who's a teacher at a Catholic school. She decides to come to church. I look on the back row and I see her just bawling and having a strong spiritual experience in our chapel. And,
So she just trusted her feelings, huh?
yeah. It's like, I feel like and he had a similar experience walking into an Orthodox cathedral. And I don't feel a need to be like, hey man, that's wrong. Those feelings were wrong. That experience that turned you closer to Jesus and made you a better disciple of Christ and a follower of his teachings, like that's wrong. That's just feelings. That's just emotional. So I don't understand why, whether it's me or someone like my friend Tawa that I mentioned, I don't understand why other Christians have to like try to minimize.
And the funny thing is he said just seconds earlier that there were Latter-day Saints that would walk into an Orthodox chapel and they would have this religious experience.
Yeah.
But he wasn't like, oh no, that's just your feelings. No, sorry, don't trust that.
That's your emotional Latter-day Saintism coming out.
I'm teaching you that orthodoxy is true, but don't listen. No, it's because it's just like, it just is really lame. And when I was in New York City one time, I went to St. Peter's, which is like this beautiful, beautiful cathedral in New York City. And I was just astounded. And I had this religious experience in there that I was like, this is so cool. I don't know how anyone walks in here and doesn't feel this kind of.
You felt the Holy Spirit.
Yes. And that's fine. Like that's great. Like I don't know why our epistemology, our spiritual epistemology is just getting boiled down to this like, oh yeah, it's just they're feeling some type of way. Like they're feeling that they might feel a different way tomorrow.
I understand why it's threatening, right? To see, and I think, members of the church might do it too. When they hear people having spiritual experiences in other faith traditions, they might participate in that, trying to diminish those experiences. But we don't have to. I mean, we have a strong position, and many millions of people come to faith in Jesus Christ through our faith tradition. And people also find faith in Jesus Christ in other faith traditions. And we see that as a huge step forward. We don't have to deconstruct everyone else. Like the thing that we always say, bring all the good you have and let's add more to it. And that's always our attitude. And so just because people are having good experiences in other faith traditions, we don't have to minimize that.
I mean, I could go on about this all day, but we have this, I feel like our tradition just has this extremely robust view of like how to come to truth. And we incorporate all these different ways. Like the Book of Mormon talks about like planting a seed, and if it brings forth good fruit, like that's a way to know something's true. Yeah. There's like the Book of Isaiah, like, come, let's reason together. Let's talk about this atonement thing. Like, and then these religious experiences that people are having, like you feel the Spirit. Or a lot of times, like something just clicks and it just makes sense to you. Like we have all these ways that we're taking into consideration and evaluating when we're trying to come to spiritual truth. And then when other people are just like, oh, you guys just trust your feelings. I'm just like, no, we don't. Like it's just a stupid reduction. I hate it. But
and there's a lady in our comments, like this mom in our comments, who's always, I see her commenting this. She goes, I do not trust my feelings. I trust the Holy Spirit. And I'm just like, how do you, like, there's a lot of people who have the question, Linda, like, how do you differentiate? How do you know which one's which? Like, just her confidence to reduce our experiences to feelings.
And everyone else's to the Spirit.
Yeah, it's like, all right. But
let's keep going, and then we'll probably be done in a couple minutes.
Almost like some of my friends who are Pentecostals. It's very much like, I feel that. Because there's an innate trust of the heart. Right, like I have a burning in my bosom. This is a famous kind of phrase, from Joseph Smith, etc. Like the way you discern if something's true is if you have a burning in your bosom. I'll give you an example. I gave a talk once to some LDS chaplains, I think it was, who were training at BYU, and I gave a talk about orthodoxy, and it was nice nice conversation. But at the end, somebody said, "Oh, I could really feel the Spirit in what you were saying." And so from an Orthodox perspective, I'm just like I don't want to like emotionally manipulate you. I want the truth to say it's so.
But like when people walk into his cathedral, he's stoked that they're feeling the Spirit. But when they feel the Spirit during his talk,
it's all over the place, dude. I don't even know.
self, right? But there's very much a sense of like, I can feel it. And what they'll do with door to door, and I remember asking about Joseph Smith and Book of Mormon trying to convert you, and they circle around the pamphlet. They don't want to have a real conversation. I'll have a real conversation with them when they don't come around much anymore. But I said, how do you know this is true? In the search for truth. And we talk, and they'd say, I just know in my heart it's true. If you just meditate in your heart and you get that thing, do you feel that Joseph Smith is a prophet? And I was like, no. You're pulling me to this subjective place where I can't follow you.
All right, hold on.
Let's talk about.
So how you know someone this is obviously, I'm not saying this about him, I'm not saying he's like unintelligent or anything, but I have this litmus test that I kind of run by people, and I usually say that if they are too obsessed with objectivity or too obsessed with subjectivity, they probably haven't done enough philosophy. Like, it's crazy to me, like, how consistent this pattern is. Like, right at the beginning of your journey and reading those famous and the best books and the best thinkers of all time, like, you're either obsessed with subjectivity or you're obsessed with objectivity. And then, in my experience, you usually find times and places where both are acceptable and times and places where both are probably going to be important. And so when he's like, oh, you're going to this subjective place, I can't follow you. It just doesn't, like, we could say the same thing. Like, oh, like, aren't you just kind of subjectively interpreting the scriptures because you guys don't have a pope like the universal Roman church does? And you'd be like, no, it's like objective. No, I don't think that makes sense. Like, I am cautious whenever I hear anyone too obsessed with
either one.
It's
not reality. Like, just our day-to-day experiences, everything in our lives doesn't fit squarely in one of those two camps.
I 100% agree, because if something's objective, you need to kind of filter it through, like, it gets filtered through your subjective lens.
Yeah.
And if something's subjective, you have to interpret it with your objective rational faculties. Like, I just think it's a non-starter. Like, I don't even know where he's going with that or how that's going to be
fruitful,
helpful to him and harmful to us. Like, I think it's just going to, and like, these are the good questions, man. Like, these are like this is the good stuff when we get into religion, what it is and like how we operate within it.
Yeah.
But I don't like when it's like, oh yeah, these guys are subjective and these guys are objective.
Yeah.
When they're subjectively claiming that. So whatever.
Yeah. And
we could talk about how the apostles in Luke 24 are like, oh, did our hearts not burn within us when he talked with us by the way? And while he
when
opened
he
the
was saying
scriptures?
that, I was like, I swear that's a biblical thing.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't think that's just in restored or in Latter-day Scripture.
Luke got it wrong. So
yeah.
No burning the bosom. Ew, yuck.
When there's a lot of atheists, and I think it's Alex O'Connor who, when they ask him, like, what would you need to become a theist? Like, what would be the most powerful evidence? If I'm remembering right, I think it was him who says, honestly, like, a religious experience, like a spiritual experience, would probably be the evidence that would.
Oh yeah, tons of atheists say that. Like,
yeah.
I've known a ton of atheists at school that would say that.
And it's totally, I think that makes sense. Like, I think that's I think anyone can look at that and say, yeah, if someone's had an experience with the divine, when Paul sees Jesus on the road to Damascus, like, these are very powerful experiences when, people have different, there's countless stories in the scriptures of people being moved upon by the Spirit. And that is where their conviction comes from. And it's just strange to try to eliminate all of that.
Yeah, dude, I just am really kind of sick of the words objective and subjective. I think they've just been boiled down to mean almost nothing anymore. And I think it would be beneficial if we all kind of just stopped using those words. Like,
yeah.
Like, you could maybe use like accessible or something. Like, oh yeah, like that's like an accessible thing for me. Like, I can read those words. That's accessible. But I can't experience what you experienced.
Yeah.
Like, that's fine. Like, we can talk about that. But like, if you're just going to be like, oh, this is objective and that's subjective, let's just talk about something else. Like, I'm not really interested in like figuring out what your subjective conception of what's objective is. Like, it's just, I don't know. Sorry if that's a little too harsh, but I just
no, it makes perfect sense.
I'm really not interested in that whole discussion anymore. I moved past that after like a few months of like really getting into stuff.
Objective. Like, I tell them, I have a friend who's an atheist. He's a Jewish guy, a Jewish atheist, and he says, I'm not an Orthodox Christian, but I'm not Christian at all. But if I believed in God and went to church, I would only be Orthodox. He says, because it's not a burning in the bosom feeling. It's not my warm fuzzy versus yours, that Orthodoxy is the true church. You should pray about it, come on. It's just objective history that an atheist could tell you that the Orthodox Church, you can trace it back. There's apostolic succession. People don't know history. Mormons don't know history.
Okay, hold on, hold up. I can trace my priesthood lineage right on up. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think Orthodox people can do the same. They'll say there's an unbroken chain, and I'm not like saying that's stupid or whatever. But like, to say that we don't,
When we really value that lineage.
yeah, like that's like very important to us that we're able to trace that history back. That just doesn't make much sense to me. Like, I don't think that's a fair criticism of us to say that we don't do history. We have some of the best historians in the world, and we've been more committed to publishing our history than almost any church ever. Like, that doesn't make sense to say that we don't do history, and to say that like we don't, like that there's no like unbroken line. And an atheist isn't going to be like, oh yeah, well, these guys claim to have the priesthood, and the guys above him claim to have. I guess the priesthood's real. No, there's no priesthood. There's no God. Like, that doesn't make sense. Like, that's not going to convince any atheist. No atheist is going to be. Obviously, his friend's still a Jewish atheist, or else he would say he converted. So it's not working that well. Sorry, I'm getting mad.
Well, it's this. Frank, what I was gonna say.
I'm not mad. I promise. I would love to chat with this guy. This guy seems really cool.
What were you just talking about? Oh yeah, it's just like these umbrella statements of being like, oh yeah, by the way, like Mormons just trust their feelings, and Mormons don't know history, and Mormons this, and it's like, dude, like this isn't going to be appealing to any Mormon. The only thing this is going to do is maybe members of your faith will see this and be like, oh, I guess Mormons aren't trustworthy. I guess when the missionaries are here, like I shouldn't engage with their theology. But the only reason I can see that you're trying to dissuade people from viewing members of the church, of our church, as reliable is if you're afraid of what might happen if they engage with our theology.
Yeah, and why not let them just like read the book? If it's
false, objectively wrong on its face, sure, bring the missionaries in.
Don't let them take the trash out.
Should I keep going?
Yeah.
Is there
history too about the history of the church and the church fathers? They all kind of believe in an apostasy, which when they learn that's not true. They don't know that's a big blind spot. We might say, but this sentimentality can overrule your reason. As you and I were discussing earlier, reason has a place. The mind of Christ, it can take you to the base of the mountain. But then you have to then your heart, and by heart I don't mean flaky emotions, I mean the center of a person through prayer and asceticism that's where you meet God. But our mind has a place to search history, and read about things.
How does he not see the contradiction here? Of being like, the flaky Mormon heart can't be trusted, but my Orthodox heart, that's what takes me to the pinnacle. It's like, what?
Yeah, dude, I don't, like, obviously we would say like, oh yeah, no, we're not like the flaky heart either.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if he expected
But objectively, we are the flaky heart. Objectively.
Oh yeah, it's objective. I can't go to that subjective orthodoxy spot.
Like, objectively, his heart is more reliable than ours. And historically.
Yeah, and historically. The apostasy is a big blind spot.
Yeah, it's a big blind spot.
Like, I'm not going to say why, but like, it's a big blind spot.
Even though like it's something that like Protestants agree with Latter-day Saints on.
Oddly enough, they like won't a lot of the time. Like when they're talking to Catholics, they will, but like when we're talking about it, no, they don't like it.
Yeah, I was talking to a Protestant guy last night who kept talking about what the church, like not the early church, but like, it's like the church has always thought this. And I'm like, yeah, but there's a lot of things that like the church went on to think that you don't like. And he's like, oh, no, that wasn't unanimous. I'm like, what are you talking about? Anyways.
Nothing was unanimous.
I know.
Well,
but we don't know history though.
So we wouldn't know. We don't know any history.
But should we call it there?
Yeah, let's call it. I think it's about all we got.
But what's this guy's name again? Justin Havens. Looks like he's in Utah. He would be a really cool person to talk to.
Yeah, I know. Like, he seems like a really cool guy. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know why there seems to be a lot of like reductions or like characterizations that I just as a member of the church don't agree with. But I would love to hear back from him if he ever sees this. But I mean, I really just see us and him as being on the same side. Like, I don't think that he needs to go out here and kind of try and tear down Mormonism to build up orthodoxy. Like I said at the beginning, I think orthodoxy is so cool. I think it's so fascinating. And I think the good it does in the world is tremendous. I think it's so cool that like young people can go back to this traditional and ancient faith and really just kind of shake off modern proclivities for a second and just go into this ancient feeling Orthodox chapel and partake of the Eucharist and engage in all those ancient traditions. Like I think that does an immense amount of good for people. But you don't need to hate on us for taking out the trash at the same time. Like, come on.
Yeah. And I think I appreciate people like him who, in their efforts to take down Mormonism, he's at least plugging an alternate Christian worldview.
Oh, yeah, no, I appreciate that.
Because there's so many members of the church who, or I guess there's so many former members of the church who have left Christianity as a whole. I would say just anecdotally, I would say the vast majority. I know the B.H. Roberts study asked that question. We could just find out. But, and so I'm happy to see another Christian worldview being presented to Latter-day Saints, because the hope is that if you do leave our faith tradition, that you won't leave Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And that you'll at least remain a Christian in some other denomination.
And I do think that he's like an honest and cool guy, because he'll throw us a bone every once in a while. Like, and I appreciate that. Like in a critique of us, like I appreciate when he can be like, yeah, no, they're really like devoted. They're really.
He was saying that like the ones who have left us to become Orthodox are.
Dude,
but I think
I'll take what I can get, bro. Like we don't get any respect.
He was
out
saying
here.
the ones that are still in the church are the prideful ones that are too moralistic. But when the former members asked to pay tithes in Orthodoxy, that's not prideful. That's just the heart. The heart, not the flaky heart. But no, we're poking a lot of fun, but we would love to talk to this guy, Justin. If you see this, that would be cool. And I'm someone, Cade knows more about Orthodoxy than I do. I would love to learn more. And
me too. I have plenty to learn, so I'd love to hear back from you if he ever sees this. But I think it's about all we got for today. So thank you for stopping by. Another reminder, just like we do every episode, don't crash out in our comments. Just leave a respectful comment if you want to disagree with us. And we'll probably get back to you, and we'll probably think a lot about what you have to say. So thank you.